Welcome to Dude's Garage and Video Game Emporium. This is Dude, and this is my garage and video game emporium. What I have here is a clock spring replacement on a 2011 Toyota Tacoma. This is my second time in here because the first one is spent $20 on it, and it lasted about a year. So don't get anything that's cheap, and if you do get something you can go back and get a warranty replacement on. The reason why these go bad is because of steering wheel vibration. And there's actually a recall from what I've seen. Now verify this, but between the years of 2005 and 2009, they have a recall on these, so you can get it done for free. So look out for the recalls for the 2011 Toyota Tacoma in the future for that. Keep your receipts, because if they do a recall, you can actually submit your receipt for the work that you did and get your money back on this thing if there's ever a recall on this. And I see one coming in the future. And the other thing is the symptoms. The symptoms are that your airbag light will come on, your horn will stop working, and your cruise control will stop working on a Toyota Tacoma 2011. Those are caused by this going bad. It's a super easy replacement. Watch the video and you'll see how to get rid of one, two, or all three of those symptoms if you have them. Two important pieces of information before we get started. Number one, when you disconnect the battery and reconnect the battery, always have on eye protection. If you have a pair of glasses, that's fine. If you don't wear glasses or have contacts, do yourself a huge safety favor. Make sure that you put on something over your eyes, even a pair of sunglasses or something. But safety glasses preferred, because I have witnessed a battery explode, and specifically into my father's face. This is a grand total of about $45 to do it yourself with a warranted part. Now what I'm going to do here is, the first thing we're going to do is remove this screw here. You turn the steering wheel, and then there's one on the other side. And then what you're going to do, and I've already removed the covers. The covers here are put a screwdriver on the steering wheel side of that and pry it back. It'll pop right off. There's the next part we need to take out. We're going to take out that Torx. And also there's the exact same thing on the other side. I don't know if you can see it because the steering wheel's downwards. Same thing on the cruise control handle. So you just do that, and we'll be right back with the next steps. Okay, continuing on. You may have to, first thing you can do is take the airbag off. It's here. And where those Torx bits were, there's some plastic things to keep those screws in there. All you got to do is, as you pull the airbag off, you might have to pull those little black catchers back in there in order to take that off. But then you have this, and don't yank it, so you got to take these wires off. And the way you do that is that you take these little yellow caps here, and you pop them up, straight up. They pop straight up off, and then take the horn off of here. Now, before you proceed, I highly recommend that you disconnect the battery. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Notice my steering wheel is straight up and down. Make sure before you take this off, unless you like to drive down the road with a crooking steering wheel, like I did on my 1978 Camaro, because it was put back together incorrectly, not by me, it'll drive you crazy. So make sure that steering wheel, when you start to work on this, is straight up and down. Okay, we have that off, and what we're looking at here is, I got some really good advice from another video I watched. When you set this down, this can go off. It'd have to be extraordinary. If it does, it'd have to be perfect kind of a scenario that this could go off. What you want to do, so when you set it down with the metal side down. So if it does go off, the metal side doesn't go flying up in the air and hit you. It would come at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But with that plastic piece, that's what it's designed to deploy. So set it down like that. And there's all the dog hair inside of my steering wheel. Yes, I have a big old meatball dog. So that's a bonus. That doesn't cost any extra. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this nut off, and I'm going to tell you what size it is here in just a second. and we're just gonna spin that off, and then the steering wheel pulls straight off. Be careful when you do, so you can disconnect all the connectors and things. This is the horn. That one doesn't have to come off, but this one will, and there are some underneath here, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Okay, so I've marked my steering wheel with a Sharpie with the top position. You see that mark there? You mark it. You can even score it with a wrench or something, or a screwdriver or something. And here's the two screws removed before. You might be able to remove them after you take the steering wheel off. I'm not quite sure. That's how I did it before. That's what I know works. And all you got to do is take the bottom part off. Easy cheesy. All right, the next parts is there's that clip on this side here, and then one on top, one on the other side. You just very carefully make sure you don't break those off again. Now, a couple important things. I've removed these three pieces here, 1, 2, 3. And then now my clock spring comes off here. Now, what you have to be very careful of, let's go to the workbench for this next part. The next piece is these little hooks that are on here. Make sure that you treat them very, very gingerly, because that's actually not part of the clock spring. This comes apart, and we'll do that here in a second. Now, when this one's broken off from when I did this before, it won't clip on right. So if you break two of those off, you're looking at probably cutting out another $45 or up to $400, depending on how that little piece of crap plastic runs. So be careful when you separate these two pieces, because as you can see there in that gap here, the tall one is the internal assembly, and the external one, the short one, is the clock spring component. So when you pull this apart, make sure that you don't break any of the little clips off of these things, because it's going to get expensive in a big hurry. I take that last piece back. Stand by. I take that next piece back that I just said this is the old clock spring, or this is the new one. This is the old one. And those clips are actually on the clock spring replacement, so you should be pretty safe with that. But there's that busted one. So that's that $20 clock spring that I bought a year ago. Here's the new one. There's a little clip in here. You're going to remove that after you have it installed. But to take it apart on these, there's these little box clips here. It shines up really good right there. There's several of them around the orbit of this thing, around the circumference of it. So just all you need to do is just kind of take that apart. Then we're going to put the new one right into that particular, right back in there, made them together. And then we just do the whole thing in reverse. You probably stop now, or if you want to see reassembly, hang around. This gray part here, that connector, it actually has a little lever on there that you have to lift to put it back into place. Of course, this thing isn't focusing, but there's a little lever for that one. The other two, the black and the yellow, they just pull straight out. Let's see if we can get some light on this thing. There you go. So. All right, in order to install the steering wheel, we need to pull our deal here, because if we put our steering wheel on top of that, we'll have problems. I fitted the cowl on here, and it just snapped right into place. It's nice and sturdy. Good engineering on this thing, by the way. Bad piece of shit clock spring, though. A little bit of comedy here, but kind of an important thing. As you can see, I've got the airbag put in, but somebody forgot to put the nut back on for the steering wheel. That's an important piece of the puzzle there, so make sure you put that back on too. Make sure that these pieces are seated right up against your airbag assembly. I put the horn back on. I actually had to plug the horn back into the outlet on the top there, so make sure you don't miss that step. And now the next step is I actually had to reach back in here and pull those little black clips back in order to seat those screws back into the airbag mount assembly. Okay, so now all you got to do is hook up the battery, turn the wheel back and forth, put those last 2 screws in, you're done. Outstanding work on this Toyota. I've put 105,000 miles on it, and that's the only problem I've had with it. The only other thing is I've replaced the battery in it. These Tacomas are amazingly great vehicles. I had a Chevy S10, as referenced before. I put 110,000 miles on it, and obviously I know how to maintain my vehicles, and I limped that piece of shit onto the dealership floor in order to trade it in for this thing. I'd say, here, take it. I don't care if you give me any money for it. I think they gave me like $500, but yeah, I limped that piece of shit 2003 S10 onto the dealership lot. Anybody who's owned one can say, yeah, they are. They're a freaking mousetrap, and it's a piece of shit. But this thing is amazing. I would highly recommend sticking with the at least the 2011 Toyota Tacoma. This is a magnificent vehicle, extremely well engineered. And you know, if you're watching this video, you obviously know what I'm talking about. If you're not watching this video, obviously you don't have to replace the clock spring and the steering wheel. So thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. Leave comments. This is my new format. I put everything up front, in steps, in order, so people can get right to the dirty of it. And I put all my bullshit gossip on the back of this thing, on the back of my videos. So if you have any questions or anything, also post those. And, you know, what can I say? Boom Shanka. By the way, before we proceed, these you might... On a Toyota, these are cup holders. I'm just using them for tools. But in a GM vehicle, they are screw and part holders, because you use them more for taking those son of a bitches apart and putting them back together than you do actually putting beverages into them. There's a lot more miles on a screwdriver, turning a screwdriver, than there is on the wheels turning on the street when it comes to a GM. Now you say, oh, you're bagging on GMs. Well, I've owned 7, and I will never, ever own an 8th. I know a rolling turd off the freaking factory floor, right off the drawing room freaking table, when I see one, because obviously I know what I'm doing when it comes to putting the stuff together.